War. War never changes. It's a Fallout classic, but the character Ulysses adds to it in Fallout New Vegas. Men do, through the roads they walk. In the second episode of the new Fallout series, the main protagonist, Lucy, has this incredibly important conversation. It's the first time she talks to a man who isn't a vault dweller, and he starts the conversation by saying this. Before the war, people joked about cockroaches surviving a nuclear blast, but they didn't merely survive. They improved. Enlarged thorax to ward off attack, extended antenna in order to hunt in packs, incisors to help ingest larger prey, such as yourself. He later says this: if you insist on staying, you will have to adapt. Question is, will you want the same things when you become a different animal altogether? And at that moment, I was hooked. This was such a great question to ask, with so many moral and political implications, that I knew that I would finish this series no matter what. And I'm glad I did. This series, especially during the first couple of episodes, seemed to promote some kind of rugged individualism, a dog-eat-dog kind of worldview, an extremely pessimistic view of human nature. Libertarians and conservatives, preppers and survivalists had to love this. But I didn't. But by the end, I think this series isn't a glorification of the you can only rely on yourself type of individualism, but a warning against cynicism, against individualism, and against power. In this video, we're going to look at what Fallout says about human nature. There's a lot to say, but long story short, I think it has a positive outlook on human nature. Hot take? Yes. Did I actually watch the series? Yes, twice. Am I stupid? Debate that in the comments. Let's start. I don't want to go into the different philosophers and their take on human nature. I want to be incredibly reductive and boil it down to there are people who believe that humans are naturally bad, and some who believe that humans are naturally good. By naturally, we mean that it's in our essence to be good or bad, that it's a basic characteristic of who we are. Now, how could we be naturally bad when most of us act good, or how could we be naturally good if so many of us act bad? Those like Hobbes who say that we're naturally bad will also say that we need a ruler, that only through a strong authority, through fear of punishment, do people actually act good. Take away that authority, and people show their true nature. Others who say that we're naturally good will say that we act bad because of society, perhaps because of incentives or external conditions that make us act bad. Many people don't believe in a human nature and think that we're simply the product of our environment and conditions, which is similar, if you ask me, to those who believe that humans are inherently good. Now, how do these positions translate politically? If we believe that humans are naturally good, then we have to believe that we must do our best to reduce the reasons and incentives that make them act bad. This means reduce or eradicate poverty, inequality, bigotry, improve education, make the world a better place, which makes for better people, which makes the world a better place, which makes for better people, etc. Now, if humans are indeed naturally bad, then I believe that you can't put one or a handful of them in a position of power where they can use that power and act according to their nature. That means bad. You'd want, I think, to diffuse power as much as possible if we were naturally bad, because a lot of power in the hands of one person who is naturally bad is going to make them extra bad. However, generally, people who believe that humans are naturally bad also believe in a strong authority, which will limit the violent tendencies of humans, an authority which will provide security. Whatsoever, therefore, is consequent to a time of war where every man is enemy to every man, the same consequent to the time wherein men live without other security than what their own strength and their own invention shall furnish them withal. In such conditions, there is no place for industry, no knowledge of the face of the earth, no account of time, no arts, no letters, no society, and which is worst of all, continual fear and danger of violent death, and the life of man, solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. If humans can only give themselves security through their own strength and inventions, their lives will be solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. How can you watch Fallout and not think that Hobbes was right? It really feels sometimes like this show is screaming at you to tell you that human nature is to be violent, selfish, and cruel. You see this violence in episode 1, 2, 3, in episode 4 where Lucy is sold to have her organs harvested, and, most importantly, in episode 5. At the beginning of episode 5, she meets Max, and because she's desperate and about to die, she trusts him. You get the feeling that maybe not everything is rotten. Then this happens. This is where my hope for this show was at an all-time low. You really can't trust anyone. Lucy gets angry at this, and I shared her frustration. And the nastiness of humans isn't only shown in the wasteland. You see it in pre-war times and even in the vaults. No matter where you go, humans are deceiving, they're plotting, selfishly exploiting others and using their power for evil. Even the Brotherhood, which you'd assume would value solidarity because of its name, has cycles of violence within it. We beat you up because I was beaten. I treat my squire badly because I was treated badly as a squire. And we could stop there, as I almost did, and call this show individualistic, cynical, conservative propaganda. It sometimes really feels like this show is trying to look like it's conservative-leaning. Lucy checks her privileges and gets mocked.
We vault dwellers recognize and are grateful for the privileged position we were born into. And
you know what folks up here say about the vaults?
Her sensitivity, her will to cooperate, to resolve conflict through understanding and words is not only made fun of, it's her biggest character flaw.
I think we're all feeling some tension. Yeah? A little stress? So why don't we all take a deep breath?
What the fuck are you talking about?
However, the scene that made me think that this show had to be conservative propaganda was the one where it outright dismissed the idea of rehabilitation for criminals. When consulting the community as to what to do with the prisoners who tried raiding Vault 33, members of the community want to rehabilitate them within the vault.
Well, you know what? The young man Woody interrogated this morning, he left an impression on me.
That is the gentleman who showed me his butthole.
Yes, but what I took from that is a desire to communicate, to reach out across the cultural divide. That's a spark we can work with to create a great citizen. The men proposing this are made to sound ridiculous. Despite that, the Vault community supports the idea.
I can teach the Raiders Shakespeare, and when they're ready, Marlowe.
Norm, the brother of Lucy, is the protagonist through which we see the events at the Vault unfolding. He's presented as the reasonable one.
I don't know. I don't think it's our job to help these people. They're murderers.
They didn't know any better. And how could they without a formal education?
So what do you propose we do?
We can do what they would have done to us.
Wow. Jeez Louise, Norm.
Execution through the eyes of the character we're supposed to be rooting for is seen as the reasonable way to deal with the inmates. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who was made uncomfortable by this positioning, or at least by its moral implications when applied to the real world. But I think Fallout did this purposefully. I think Fallout is criticizing cultural products which normalize violent ideas by exemplifying this very product. It is, as the kids say it, very meta. At the beginning of the episode where rehabilitation is criticized, we're thrown back to the beginning where we see Cooper acting. But Cooper is made uncomfortable by his character's decision. He normally arrests criminals, he doesn't execute them. He asks for a man named Bob, the normal writer who makes Cooper's character do the right thing. But Bob isn't around anymore. Bob has been fired for being a communist. Emil, the director, explains to Cooper that now that the communist is out, they're making a new kind of Western.
You see, it's a new kind of Western. The power of the individual when the chips are down. A new America, that's what I'm telling you. So, because out here, it's just you, your gun, and your personal code, bringing order to the wild, wild west.
It's just you, your gun, and your personal code bringing order to the wild, wild west. Art has the potential of making us hopeful, of making us trust our fellow human beings. But it can also make us extremely cynical, make us wary of others, plunge us into even more individualism through fear of the other, divide us, make us scared of picking up a hitchhiker, make us scared of letting our children go on sleepovers, make us believe that every stranger is a potential threat. Eroding trust, presenting a dog-eat-dog world, is exactly what an industry that kicks out communist writers would benefit from. From episode 1 to 5, the building blocks are set. We are presented an extremely pessimistic view of the world and of human nature. But this scene very subtly shows us that this pessimistic view shapes the world. Rugged individualism destroys communities, makes us care less about our collective future and more about our personal security. Some people make money off of that and work really hard to make us live in fear of our neighbor. Episode 6 is a turning point in the series. The tone of the show goes from the world sucks because humans suck to the world sucks because humans suck and humans suck because they were made to suck. Cooper's meeting with the communist, or at least critic of capitalism, Charles Whiteknife, is what changes the tone. Charlie explains that Vault-Tec is incentivized to keep people in fear and, if necessary, to destroy the world. It has the responsibility to make money for its investors, and it makes money by having people buy places in vaults. People buy places in vaults when they fear nuclear annihilation. Therefore, Vault-Tec has the responsibility to instill fear in people. In the caricaturally evil meeting where business owners discuss the future of the world in a dark room, they discuss how they win capitalism by outliving the competition and therefore need to wipe out the competition by wiping out the world. It's quite on the nose.
That is how we will win the great game of capitalism, not by outfighting anyone, but by outliving them.
However, they're wrong. They can't outlive competition. People will always get together, work together, live together. Humans live through cooperation, through solidarity. It's not an aiding factor to our existence. It's a necessary one. So Shady Sands was built, and from Lucy's recollection of it, it was great. They had a public transport system. You don't get more communist than that. We can safely assume that Shady Sands didn't thrive despite human nature, but because of it. It was destroyed, however, by Vault-Tec. It was destroyed by competition. This is not necessarily part of my argument, but can we just take a moment to appreciate how this is a perfect analogy for many communist systems that were attempted but crushed by Americans all across the world? For example, in Chile. Chile elected a socialist president, and then the US and the UK backed a coup, not to make the people of Chile safe, but to secure their financial interests, and because they feared Chile would be successful and lead by example other countries in the region. We know the coup wasn't backed by the US because they wanted to make the people of Chile safe, because they traded a democratically elected president for a military dictator who would rule the country for 17 years. They'd rather nuke a country who could bring an alternative to their system than have their system challenged. If you insist on staying, you will have to adapt. Question is, will you want the same things when you become a different animal altogether? It's such a great question, isn't it? With everything we've said, can we answer that question? And how does it tie to human nature? Cockroaches became bigger and a whole lot more dangerous when put through radiation and harsher conditions. Surface dwellers, though they did become bigger, did develop pretty violent tendencies from living on the surface. But is that a product of the nature of humans being unleashed from the authority that once suppressed it, or the product of conditions that pushed humans to act this way? In episode 7, when Max tells Lucy that he lied, that he's not a good person, Lucy says this.
I just threw acid in an innocent man's face. And I've only been up here 2 weeks. The wasteland sucks.
She understands that his behavior doesn't actually reveal anything about his nature. She invites him to live in Vault 33 with her. She knows that under different conditions, he would be someone she'd like to live with, that she'd feel safe with. There's the recognition, at least for people who have empathy, that people will behave according to their conditions and interests. Now, the according to their interests can be a bit nebulous. When can you justify defending your own interests when they're in conflict with the interests of the collective? Are you able to recognize the collective interest as your own interest? Cooper accuses both alleged communists of hypocrisy, Charlie and Moldaver. Both times, he's confronted with people who recognize that the collective interest is their own personal interest. Charlie, who owns 5 acres of land in Tarzana, or Moldaver, who's a millionaire, both recognize that their own wealth doesn't matter much if it means the world is about to end. Quite the opposite of the capitalists who believe that the future is products.
The future, my friend, is products. You're a product, I'm a product. The end of the world is a product. And for those of us who can successfully embrace that, I'd say the future is golden. To the future.
Charlie recognizes that a government controlled by Vault-Tec can't be good news, despite him owning 5 acres of land. Moldaver recognizes that having unlimited energy through cold fusion technology would benefit all of society, put an end to war, and provide a better and safer environment for herself. This recognition that the common good is not in opposition to, but conditional to the personal good, is fundamental in creating a prosperous society for individuals. The individualism that seems to be cynically advocated for is shown to be a choice encouraged by companies who do not see the common good and the individual good as one. But if Moldaver, Charlie, and eventually Cooper can see that the common good is important in protecting and promoting individual good, then why can't people in power recognize it too? Why can't Barbara, why can't Hank or Betty recognize that? Well, if you insist on staying, you will have to adapt. Question is, will you want the same things when you become a different animal altogether? When you find a job, get a position, slowly ascend to power, you adapt. You start dressing differently, your language changes, your priorities change. You become a different animal altogether. See, if disenfranchised people are the product of their conditions, so are people in power. Power has an effect on you. Some people would say it's all corrupting. And that power can change you just as struggle can change a surface dweller or as cockroaches adapted after the bombs fell. Dr. Siggy Wilzig asks the question to Lucy, who, of course, will change through her time on the surface. But the question can most be applied, I believe, to Maximus. Maximus, by all accounts, will become the sword of the new Brotherhood. He's told at the end of Season 1 by Moldaver that maybe he can infiltrate it and try to change it.
Maybe you can stop them. Maybe you can't. Maybe all you can do is try.
But by infiltrating the high powers of the Brotherhood, he'll need to adapt. And once he has adapted and does get to a position of power within the organization, will he want to change it? I don't think so. You can try to become a cop, a politician, try to climb the ranks of a pharmaceutical company. It will change you. And no matter how good your intentions are when joining these institutions of power, they will change you. They'll make you do things you otherwise wouldn't. They'll make you, in an extreme case, nuke an entire city and make you believe you did the right thing. This is why we target systems and not people. All right, where are we? In this video, we're going to look at what Fallout says about human nature. Oh, right, human nature. That was acting, baby. It would be too easy to say that human nature is bad because people act bad. Fallout isn't saying that human nature is bad. It's saying that humans adapt to their conditions and act accordingly. If it isn't saying that humans are naturally good people, it's at least saying that there isn't any human nature, that we are a product of socialization, culture, conditions, incentives, etc. Cooper became what he is after 200 years living as a ghoul in a post-apocalyptic California. Lucy became what she is because she was brought up in a safe vault. Hank became who he is by climbing up the corporate ladder and being in a hyper-individualistic culture. Vault-Tech are who they are because they're incentivized under capitalism to destroy the world. We are a product of our culture, of our conditions, of the systems we decide to give ourselves. And these elements are also a product of us. Some would say it's dialectic. Talking about this TV show, this piece of culture, shapes that culture. Commenting and sharing this video is also a way for you to shape that culture. And while you're at it, why don't you check out my Patreon? You've gotten far enough in this video to at least consider it. I made a video talking about how art interpretation is an art in itself, but I do strongly believe it shapes culture. I think it's too easy and even dangerous to come out of watching Fallout with the idea that humans suck, that the world is about to end and we're doomed to live solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short lives. When talking about it with my friend Jackson from Skip Intro, he told me after watching 4 episodes that he also likes how they're exploring the way anger/fear can turn a peaceful community in the vaults, as they're susceptible to demagoguery. I think that if the Fallout universe is so scary and dangerous, it isn't because of our nature, but because fear has been instilled in us, leading to distrust. This distrust, encouraged by individualism, by capitalism, which breeds competition in every facet of our lives, is also encouraged by culture. Cultural products which show humans acting so inhumanely make us believe that humans aren't trustworthy, reinforcing the profitable values of individualism and atomization. Fallout shows that if there isn't any trust in a society, it's not because humans are inherently untrustworthy. It's because there are systems—
That's called capitalism, Charlie.
—who continuously act, who are incentivized to break the trust you may have with your neighbors and community. They thrive off this rugged individualism, and the best way to rebel isn't to pick up your gun and bring order with your personal code. The best way to rebel is to create strong communities, self-managed communities that work together, that are unfazed by appeals to fear your neighbor. Fallout, in a weird way, and perhaps paradoxically, calls to trust the people around you, because not doing so would be falling for the systems that will eventually exploit you. Thank you so much to Axel, Roman Brandel, X-Towns, Jonathan, and every other patron for supporting this channel. It's over, folks. Fire's out. Go home. Thank you to all my patrons. Check out legerminal.ca for the artist residency. I don't even know if I'm in the frame right now. What else can we plug? The Patreon, but we already thanked the patrons. Artist residency. Hey, we're having a really nice summer. We have 20 people coming over this summer for the artist residency. If you want to be part of these people, well, you can because it's full right now. But if you want to come like during the winter or the spring, check out legerminal.ca. You're gonna have a lot of fun. It's over, folks. Show's over. Thank you for watching. Thank you for liking and subscribing. Thank you for being there.